Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a book haul. I hope that this video finally gets out. This is not the second or the third. This is the fourth time I've tried to film a 12-minute video for let me walk you through. The first time was on me. The quality looked like absolutely dookie, like straight shit from a butt. So I was like, I'm just gonna refilm this at a different angle, this angle. Second time I filmed it, I thought I spoke well. I showed off the books well. When I transferred the video to my PC, could not work. I don't know what happened. So I messed with some settings. I film on my phone, so I messed with some settings on my phone. Third time's the charm. The audio would not sync up. And yes, there's solutions to these, but I am not gonna download a bunch of other whatever to make Premiere Pro work. I'm just gonna refilm and pray that it happens, that everything works out well. So this is the fourth time's a charm, hopefully. But I have a stack of books to talk to you about. These are all the books that I got during the month of September. I know this is a lot more book hauls than I usually do, but I have been buying more books. But as usual, most of them are thrifted or secondhand. I like using Pango, eBay. I have a Goodwill near me. Thrift Books is also a place where I get a lot of my books. But yeah, I have about 10 books, not a lot, but just enough to kind of quickly talk about. I do have a few that are not secondhand that I got straight from a bookstore or something. I think we can just get started, and yeah, I hope you enjoy the video. I'm also getting over a little sickness. I had a really stuffy nose that maybe you can still kind of hear. I had a sore throat, but I'm mostly okay now. And that's also another reason why I've been putting off filming this. But the first book I want to talk about is Arcana Academy by Elisa Kova. This is one that I did actually pick up at my Books a Million. I did a vlog talking about just this one book. It's like a new release reading vlog and review, which is a series that I would like to keep doing on this channel. But this is a kind of new adulty age fantasy about this woman who is a prisoner because she was caught creating illegal tarot magic, and she's in prison for that. The headmaster of this school, of this Arcana Academy, gives her an offer. He will take her out of prison, and in return she will be a student of his, as well as his bride to be. It's like a school kind of magic fantasy stuff. I gave this book 3.5 stars. If you want to watch the whole vlog, go ahead, or you can skip towards the end where I talk about this in a review. This next book I didn't buy from a bookstore, but I did get it from a subscription service. This is the Illumicrate version of The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovalino. This is what the spine looks like, the cover. I actually like the original cover more than this one. I believe that this book follows a lady knight and a mage. I believe there is either unrequited love, or they are already really into each other, and there is some sort of quest that they have to go on. I think there's a baby involved or something, but I think it's the first book in an epic romantasy or fantasy romance series. The naked hardcover is a million times prettier than the cover that they gave the book. Here's the back. Here's some artwork. I had to blow my nose. What is my hair doing? And here is some more artwork. I'm very picky about artwork. I think that's why I don't like the cover. Not to say that these artists aren't talented. I just don't. I have tastes. Different tastes. The only other book that I actually got from the bookstore is technically bargain price, so I didn't even get it full price. This is Throne of the Fallen by Kerri Maniscalco. So I believe this author is the one that wrote the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, which I actually did kind of like. I like historical settings, so that was kind of up my alley. However, I picked this up thinking it's the beginning of a series, which it is, but I think it's a companion series to a YA series, but this is an adult series, which isn't super weird, but authors typically try to stay in the same age range. So I don't know if I should read the YA series. Not that I'm opposed to YA, but I think it's more romance focused, and I'm trying not to read YA romance that much. But I believe this series, we're supposed to follow different princes of hell or something, and this one follows the Prince of Envy. It sounds like a romantasy book, but I thought the cover looked stunning, and I have had some luck with this author in the past, so I thought, why not try something more romance forward with an author that I'm okay with? Let me know, how do I read this? In what order, This next book sounds really cool and really interesting and fun. This is The Bone Raiders by Jackson Ford. I got this in the Caffeine and Legend subscription service, which I did try and I did really like. It is pricey though, so I did like take a pause on that one to try other services. This is the first book in a fantasy series where we follow a couple characters who are Rakata, which are like these like really cool, like badass, like bone raiders, and they wear like the bones of like their kills or whatever into battle. They ride horses, but there is some sort of like political drama. Like there's some sort of like dude who's like threatening to encroach on their land or their freedoms or something. Our main character decides or is trying to like convince the other members of her group that they should ride these things called Arutan, I think is what they're called. Basically these giant like fire breathing lizard things. That sounds cool. That sounds like a badass like actiony fantasy, which I can get behind. I don't read a lot of them, but I'm so down for that because I don't. It looks really fun. Something about like badass fantasy also tells me that there might be kind of some humor in it. I don't know why I associate action fantasy with like humor. Everything else in this video is like thrifted secondhand. I have Shifting Shadows by Patricia Briggs. This is a collection of short stories in the Mercy Thompson series, maybe also connected to the Alpha and Omega series, which is also connected to the Mercy Thompson series, which is one of my favorite series of all time. We follow a character named Mercy who is a coyote shifter, and she gets involved with like werewolf, fae, witch, vampire drama. It's a very like monster of the week type premise, which is like one of my favorite things, urban paranormal fantasy, which I love. I've completed like the main storyline so far. I'm very excited. I love this universe. I haven't been in it in a hot second since I've also completed the Alpha and Omega series. The only other book that I haven't read from this universe is literally one that just came out. It was like How to Date a Werewolf, which is another short story collection, I think, following a werewolf character. I also picked up The Angel of Indian Lake by Stephen Graham Jones, the first book in the series. So good. The first book is My Heart is a Chainsaw, which I loved. I am absolutely convinced that Stephen Graham Jones actually has met the real life main character of that book and just like put her in a novel because he describes her so well. She's so realized, so lifelike, and I adore her. One of my favorite characters, like in general. But this is a horror series, and I don't want to spoil it, but in the first book, we follow our character named Jade, who is a high school student, and she loves slasher films, like Halloween and stuff. And she's absolutely convinced that a slasher event is going to happen in her town. And she even has like picked out like the final girl, like who's going to survive the whole event, the aftermath of it all. You're in the main character's head a lot, and it's weird and it's odd. The writing isn't complicated, but for some reason, when I read Stephen Graham Jones, I can't not hyper focus on it. Like I can't have noise, which I usually can, but it's a very intense reading experience when I read Stephen Graham Jones, but I love that first book. 5 stars looking back on it. This is the third book. I read the second already. Not a library book, but it is a library copy that I got from Thrift Books. So I really I want to read this soon. I have 2 mysteries that are kind of not related at all, but they're in the same like time and space. I have A Treacherous Curse by Deanna Raybourn. This is the third or fourth, I think it's the third book in the Veronica Speedwell series, which when I first started reading this series, I thought it was fine. The first book to me was absolutely just like okay, but then I read the second one and I started enjoying it more. So I think it might be one of those series that just like gets better and better for me, which is what happened with the Mercy Thompson series, to be fair. In this book, which is very lighthearted and fun, we follow a character named Veronica, and she loves butterflies. She likes studying them, but she also gets involved in like mysteries. People come to her for like help, and she does have a partner of sorts that it's probably going to be like slow burn. Like if you've ever watched the show Bones, it's a very similar dynamic. She's very straightforward, and he's like the suave kind of like street savvy dude with like a troubled history. But it's a very like lighthearted series. It's like fun and witty. It takes place during the Victorian era in, for the most part, London. They're easy, quick to get through. This next book also takes place in the Victorian era, and it is also another mystery series, but this takes place in Toronto, and we follow a character who is a police detective. Now, I first got introduced to the series because it has been adapted into like a Canadian like TV show, and the show is super lighthearted and fun and like cozy for me. And that show really focuses on the developments in criminology to like help catch criminals, solve crimes. Book series, at least the first one, was like very a bit more dark, a bit more dramatic, which I did not expect. But I mean, I still liked it, and I was kind of on the fence about whether or not to like continue the series physically or like audio ebook. I saw that someone had them on Pango or was selling this one copy on Pango, and I was like, why not? I like reading mysteries physically. I like reading most books physically, to be honest. The first book, I remember having a lot of themes of like anti-Catholic sentiment, and in this one, a character who's been murdered was a midwife and an abortionist. So we're dealing with some interesting concepts here that would never, not that would never get touched on the TV show, but it's a bit more like a bit more intense, which I appreciate. Next, I have some classics. Now, I have not talked about this, and I don't know if I'm going to make like a proper video, but if you can see up there's a book, it's like teal. It's called 1001 Books to Read Before You Die. I've seen this book floating around on like TikTok where people, cross a book off their list once they've read it. And I'd like to do something similar or the same, really. I forgot what the creator's name was, but I first saw it from this one TikTok creator. It is 1001 books. A lot of them are Western. They're very popular classics. Some obvious characters like Jane Austen or like the Russian philosophers. These two books are in that book, and it's not something that you can like complete in like a year. It's probably like a lifelong kind of challenge, which is fun. This is not going to get completed anytime soon. The first book I have is I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. This is a kind of sci-fi classic, I guess. I've seen the film with Will Smith, and we follow a character who is the last living man on Earth, and everyone else is zombie vampires question mark. I've seen the movie. I know how it ends, but I've also heard like the discourse of how different the ending is, or some elements that weren't really put in, that leads to like more discussion, more nuanced discussion. So I like to physically read the book, and it's technically a classic that's in that book. So when I finish this, I can scratch it off the list that I wrote longhand, by the way, and then like take it off the list. And the last book in this haul was one, thrifted, B, free. I've already read it before, so I would like to read it again, and that is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Read it during high school. It's been a minute since like I've actually read it, and I had enough points on thrift books, which if you buy enough books, you accumulate enough loyalty points, you can get anything under $6 for free, I believe. And they had the like Penguin Modern Classics, which I love, like this shade of blue, especially when they're all stacked on top of each other. It looks so good. And I actually really like the stock image that they chose. I'd like to reread this for a couple reasons. Mostly one reason. I've talked about it, I think, in another video, where because The Great Gatsby has now been put into the public domain, a lot of authors are using this material to do their own shake of it. I believe Nevo has a like sapphic queer version of The Great Gatsby, and someone just released like a sci-fi dystopian version of The Great Gatsby that sounded really interesting as well. So I'd really like to reread this to have like a better grasp. I mean, I know what it's about. I know like the major themes about it, but I'd like to reread it. Yeah, those are the books that I've hauled recently this past month. I would like to hear anything you have to say down below in the comments. Have you read any of these? Enjoyed them, disliked them? Have I put any of them on your radar? I like to hear anything you have to say down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.